in the last video, we looked at setting up additional levels using the different enemies on those levels. But if I go back to the very first level, is that there are these coins available to us where the player can collect these coins, but there's no way to keep track of them or no way to see or use them in any way. So let's turn this into, say, like a little bit of a puzzle platformer, in the fact that let's allow or make the player have to collect a certain amount of coins in order for them to get out of the level. So if I was to play test the level and I miss a coin, in order for me to get out of the level, I have to go back and make sure that I'm collecting all of those available coins themselves. Now, how can we do this? If I look at the event sheet, is that on event number 6, is that here when the player is colliding with the coin, that you can destroy the coin. So what we could do is we could create a global variable. So I can go ahead and somewhere in the margin here, I'm going to right click and I'm going to add a global variable, and we can call this Collectibles. And it'll be a number, and I'm going to leave the initial value at 0. Now the reason why that I'm leaving it at 0, because let's say maybe you have 5 coins on one level and 3 on another and say 10 on another. You want the system to figure out how many coins you've provided in order to let the player know, hey, this is how many coins you have to collect. So what we could do is that we can create a new event. So I'm going to add an on event, and on the system is that all the way at the bottom here, I'm going to look for on start of event, on start of layout, sorry. And when the layout starts, I want the system to count all of my collectibles. So I'm going to add an action on the system, and I'm going to set this to that value. So under global and local, I want to set the value of my collectibles based on the coin, that's the object, dot or period, and the count. So this is going to count all of the coins per level. So I'll do coin dot count, not coin count. Okay. And the way to verify this, and usually you want to put your on start of layouts at the very top, but I'm going to go ahead and just leave it here for right now. If I save this, the way to verify this is if I go back to level 1, and instead of doing the preview, click on the little black arrow, and I want to debug this layout. And what I'm looking for is so here's a global variable. See, Collectibles has a value of 16 there. On this level here, let's go take a look at the other levels. If I go to level 2 and I debug this layout, and I look at my global variable, it says 0. So it's counting the number of collectibles on that given level. So I'm going to go to level 2 here, and I'm going to sprinkle some coins in as well. Go back to the very beginning. I'm going to put my player back at the very beginning as well. And I'm going to drag some coins in here. And then I'm going to just kind of sprinkle these along the way. You could essentially make it unique or even. That way the player knows that I need to get so many collectibles per level. Maybe keep it simple at 5. So here I've got 1 there, 2, 3, and I'm going to move this one down to here. And then I'm going to put 1 right here, 4, and then I'll put 1 right there. So 5 collectibles there. I'm going to go to my level 3, and then I'm going to same again. I'm going to put 5 collectibles. There's 1 there. Put 1 up here too. And then 3, 4, and 5. So that way the player has a simple amount of coins to collect per level. And then back on level 1 is that there was 16. So I'm going to need to remove the additional coins there. So I'm going to get rid of this first one. I'll leave 1 of these here. So that'll be 1 up there. That's 1. This will be 2 over here. I'm going to leave that one there. 3. And then 4. And 5. So I'll get rid of these 2 as well. Okay. So I'll save my work. Now, let's verify again. Now, how do we know if we're subtracting from that count? You can go either positive or negative. They both work the same, just the logic behind it is a little different. So if I go to the events, is that this counted all the collectibles, and then I'm gonna minus from that. So here, when the player collects the coin and I destroy the coin, I also want to subtract 1 from the collectibles. So I'm going to add that action on the system, and I'm going to go ahead and do subtract from the collectibles by 1. And I'm going to make this first. So I want to subtract 1 and then destroy. Save my work. If I go back to level 1, if I go back to debug, is that I'm going to scroll down and I'm going to look at this. So it says 5 right there. So I'm going to go look for a coin. I've collected that. Now that says 4 right there, 4. But what happens if I accidentally run into an enemy here? The good thing is it recalculates and recounts the coin because we restarted the level. And even though I collected that 1, it put it back in its position and recounted as 5. Okay, so each one that I collect is going to take away 1 from the count. And now I've got 3 left, so that's working there. Perfect. And it should work on level 2 as well because we're using the events from the previous. So here, there's the global variable, collectibles 5. If I collect this coin, I now have 4. Perfect. Now what can we use to get out of the level? Let's look at this. So in the first level, there is a flag in this level here. Let's go ahead and use that. So that way it's consistent on all the levels. So this particular one here, this flag is actually behind the tile map. So because when I select this, it's not letting me pick the flag there, but I do want to erase the actual lower the pole right there. So I'm going to remove that. Back to the arrow. I'm going to move this down. I'm going to grab the flag out. And what we could do is that I could make this Z order send to top of layer. That will definitely be helpful. I'm going to go to the very end of the level here. And I'm going to put the flag up here for the player to go ahead and run into or collide with. I could put the flagpole back in here using the graphics. That's what Kenny did here. So he used the graphic like so for the player to walk into. But then when it comes time for level 2 and 3, I don't have access to that anymore. I'm going to need to actually insert that object, or I can have an additional tile map for just one tile. Doesn't make sense. So what I'm going to do is that on level 2, is if I put the flag in here on level 2, like so, and if I go to level 3, and I go all the way to the very end, I can put the flag in here as well. And what we could do is, we could just put it on the ground for the player to bump into. That might be the more practical sense to do this, instead of just inserting one object. But if you wanted to, we could essentially do that. We could right click, insert new object. I'm gonna go with a sprite, and then we'll just call this the flagpole. And I'm gonna go ahead and find that graphic. That's gonna be in downloads, the pixel platformer in the tiles pack. And then I'm gonna try to look for this. Let's see if we can find that graphic. Number 131. Number 131. I'm going to go ahead and zoom in here. I'm going to move the origin to top left. And then I'll have that there. So there is that right there as well. Back to level 2. I can drag that in as well there. And I'm also going to want to make sure that the player, so to make sure the player is always out in front, what I could do in the event sheet is that on this starter layout, I can take the player and I can make sure the player that we move to top. That's going to move the player to the top of the layer always. And then again, I'm going to go ahead and move this all the way up. So it's the very first thing that runs, like so. And then what we can do now is that when the player is on collision with that flag and the player has collected all of the collectibles, they can leave the level. So I'm going to add an event. We're going to go player, and we're looking for on collision with another object. Let's go with the flag. But I also want to add a second condition here. So if I right click, add another condition, we're also going to check the coin count or the collectible count. Is it in fact 0? So I'm going to compare the variable. Is the collectibles equal to 0 and the player has collided with the flag? Then let's go to the next layout. This is very simple for you to move from one level to the other. So system, and I'm going to scroll down to layouts, and I'm going to go to next or previous, and I'm going to go to the next. All right, let's save our work and let's verify this. Make sure you save your work. Back to level 1, and I'm going to preview. And so I've collected 1 coin there. There's 2. 3 coins. There's 4 coins. So that coin there, I'm going to miss that coin there for a minute. So if I run into the flag, nothing's happening. But if I grab this last coin and then I run into the flagpole, I'm now been transitioned to the next level. So that in fact the logic did work. I have to run into the flagpole, but also make sure that I have all of the collectibles on each level to get the player to the next layout or level itself. There you go. I'm on to the next one as well. So go ahead and play test, set yourself up on your levels there, verify that you have in fact can get yourself from level to level, collecting the items that you need in order to move you on to your level 1, 2, and 3. Thanks for watching.